Hi everyone, Roy the golf club coach here, and today we're going to do something totally different. Today we're not going to be seeing any fancy drone footage, no big arcing shots shaped to the left, no slices off into an out of bounds zone. No, today I'm going to show you how to properly swing weight a golf club. Now the easiest way for anyone to increase the swing weight of a golf club is by using this. This is your ordinary lead tape. Has a sticky side on this end, and you can easily rip off pieces of lead tape, stick them to the back of a golf club to increase its swing weight. Now, of course, this is a very easy method of increasing head weight and therefore swing weight, but it's also not the prettiest method. And I usually use this lead tape when I'm testing for swing weight. You can see here on this testing club, I've added some swing weight by wrapping it around the hosel. But this club, when I measure it on my swing weight scale, comes out at about D9, which is not a lot. Actually, it balances up a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, D9.5. This is about where it sits. Now, if I want to increase this club swing weight further with lead tape, I could do it for testing purposes here on the hosel, but of course the most effective place to put the lead tape would be here on the back of the head. Now, if I just rip off a little bit of lead tape, of course if you don't have a lot of nails, it's not easy to rip this off. Putting it on the sole of the club, that would be a bad idea. You could of course put the tape here, but because you're interacting with the turf, the tape is not going to last very long. So usually we put it somewhere around here, and instantly you can see this is not very pretty. This is not aesthetically pleasing. So let's see what happens if I use 2 strips of this lead tape to increase this head weight. So I've got 2 strips on here. Put it on the swing weight scale. You can see it's not in balance now. It's up. Okay, by using those 2 strips of lead tape, I've now increased it to a little bit over D0. No, not D1 is a bit too much. A little bit over D0, which would be a normal swing weight for your average male to use. However, if you play in hot conditions, the stickiness of the tape that can, get soft, and you might eventually lose this tape. But it's an easy way to test with swing weight and see where your preferences lie. Of course, the easiest time to increase the swing weight of a golf club is when you're in the building phase. So when you have like just a shaft, a loose head, and a loose grip. Now when you're in the building stage, you can use these little puppies. These are tip weights. They're available in brass or in lead. And these tip weights install into the tip of the shaft before you glue the head on. So if we take this brass tip weight, we can insert it into the tip before the head goes on. And this is an easy and surefire way to increase the swing weight of the club head. Now let's see what happens if I don't put in this tip weight. I'll put this little 7-iron, this little forged 7-iron head onto this shaft, and I want to install it with this grip. Now, a little trick I use is that I try to have a cut up grip of every grip that I use for building. So this grip has been pre-cut. So by using a cut up grip, I can easily put my grip that I want to use, the exact same type with the exact same weight, I can put it on the end of the shaft before dry fitting the head and then testing it for swing weight. If I'm testing it for swing weight right now, let's see. it's at about D1. However, if I were to be using this club, I would prefer to have my irons a little bit higher up in swing weight. So I would want to increase that from D1 all the way up to D4, D5. So because we're still dry fitting this, now I can see what happens if I put in this 6 gram brass tip weight. Insert the tip weight, put the head on, and now put it on the swing weight scale. Okay, so 6 grams, that did a lot to the swing weight, as you can see. It's not a D2, it's not a D3. I expect it to be somewhere about D4. Remember that 2 grams into the head portion of the golf club will increase your swing weight by 1 point. So when you're in the building phase, then using these tip weights could be a really good way to increase your swing weight. Now, remember that you have to glue in the tip weight as well. So when installing these, I'll have to make sure that I put some epoxy around this tip weight, and before gluing up the hosel with epoxy and the tip with epoxy and installing it, take into account that all the epoxy that you're going to use is going to weigh a little bit as well. And if it's more than 1 gram, it will show up in your final swing weight. So using tip weights is an excellent way to build up your swing weights when you're in the building phase. However, it's not very accurate, and therefore usually when I am building clubs, I prefer to build them without the tip weights in. Or maybe I'll use the tip weights to bring the swing weight up to a certain point, but then I'll do the final adjustment with lead and powder. And that's the method that I'm going to be showing you next. So here we have a club with the head already glued on. This is a 6 iron with a really nice Modus NS Pro shaft. And I want to use the same CP2 wrap grip on this. Now let's see. I've got the head all installed. I've got my cut grip so I can test what the swing weight would be when installing this grip. Now this grip is in mid-size, so it's fairly heavy, and I would like my irons to be around D5. However, if you check out the swing weight, it's only at D2. For me, that's not enough. So the club right now is at D2. The head is already installed and I cannot use the tip weights. So I'm gonna take my grip off, my testing grip. I'm gonna take it off, set the club to the side, and now here comes a trick. I'm going to be using lead powder, and this lead powder is going to go into the shaft and it's going to settle here in the tip. Now in order to keep that lead powder in the shaft, I'm going to be inserting a little cork into the shaft as well. You can get different sizes of cork. If you're doing steel shafted clubs, then you'll use the bigger corks, but since a graphite shaft has a smaller inner diameter, then use a smaller size cork. Now this cork is going to be inserted after we make sure that the swing weight is actually in the proper place, and I have a little trick concerning this cork as well, which I'm going to show you later. So we're going to be needing a cork, we're going to be needing the lead powder. One thing to say about this lead powder though, lead is really poisonous. If you work with lead a lot, make sure to wear a mask, maybe wear gloves, or at least make sure to wash your hands really properly, because you do not want to get this lead into your body. It's very poisonous, and this will cost you IQ points. Weird, but true. So maybe a safer thing to use would be this slightly more expensive tungsten powder. It's also just weighted, it's heavy powder. It's really dense. It will do the same job as the lead powder, but for me this tungsten powder is just a little bit more expensive, and since I usually tend to do a lot of golf clubs, I tend to use ordinary lead powder, but I do have the tungsten powder as well. So this club with the grip on came to about D2. I want to get it to D5, which is a difference of 3 points. Now, if I want to go up 3 points in swing weight, I'm going to be adding 3 times 2 grams is a total of 6 grams in lead powder. And this is how I do it. If we come over here to my scale, here I've created a little cone, and this cone is going to help me insert the lead powder into the shaft. Now I've zeroed it out with the cone, so now I can just add my powder on here until I can get 6 grams. There you go. 6 grams of lead powder. And now we can go and insert this powder in the shaft. Let's give it a little shake so that it all goes nicely down the shaft. Here I'm going to be using my cut grip again to see how my finished club would hold up. Okay, so it definitely did something to the swing weight. And what do you know? It's right there at D5. Perfect. So now that we know that we've got the swing weight in the correct place, now we can proceed and put the cork down the shaft, because we have to make sure that all this lead powder stays down in the shaft. We don't want it rattling around, and we don't want it falling out of the grip when we put the clubs in our bag. So we're going to be using this cork and we're going to put it down the shaft. Now I have a little tool that I use to ram this cork down, and that's my ramrod. This thing I use a lot. So I'm going to put my ramrod to the side because I want to show you a little trick. Now you can find that sometimes with repeated use, the cork can come loose inside the shaft. So that's why I always use a little bit of ordinary glue onto the tip of the cork. And this glue is just going to help me fixate this cork in place. So with a little bit of glue inside the tip of the cork, it will come to the sides automatically. I just put it down the shaft. So with the cork inside the shaft, I use my ramrod to push the cork down. Now when it's all the way down, you need to make sure that it's really compacted in there. When you hear that hard sound and it's not sounding spongy anymore, that's when you know that the cork is really down the shaft. And this lead powder is not going anywhere anymore. So I think you can agree that by swing weighting your club in this fashion, we can keep the normal aesthetics of the golf club without messing it up with ugly lead tape on the back. And this just looks a lot prettier than, let's say, this Mizuno that I've messed up with the lead tape. Wouldn't you agree? Of course, to do a swing weighting job properly, you're going to need some stuff. There are online calculating tools to calculate how much weight you have to add to a head. When a head weighs a certain amount, your shaft is a certain length, and you have a certain weight of your grip. And those tools can be really handy if you don't have the proper tools to do it, but I found that it's really inaccurate, and you get really mixed result by using those online calculators. So I would prefer to always get a swing weight scale. This is not a really expensive piece of equipment, but if you want to do swing weighting properly, and swing weighting is important to you, then do yourself a favor and buy yourselves one of these. Now this is a normal analog swing weight scale. It has a manual weight. You can get them in digital versions, which of course are a lot more expensive, more accurate maybe, but this is essential if you want to do swing weighting. If you want to use the lead and cork method, then you're going to have to buy a proper gram scale. It has to be very accurate, and you can see there's my little handy insertion tool, weighs 3.5 grams. It has to be accurate, and it has to be accurate down to a gram at least in order to do proper swing weighting of your golf clubs. So with the cork down the shaft, I've tested it with the cut up test grip. Now I could just install the normal grip and this club will be good to go. If you would like me to explain how to properly install a grip, then let me know in the comments below and maybe we'll make a video about that as well. This is the coach signing off. I will see you in the next one.